Hello. This video is to deal with the Theology and Ministry Logbook. There are a number of things that you need to do during your course. You will need to do all of your units, work through the workbooks, complete all the assessment tasks. You'll need to do core units and the electives that are set for this particular year. But the other thing that you need to do, and you can't graduate without it, is to actually fill in a logbook to keep track of what you've been doing and putting some of those things you've been learning into practice. We certainly hope you're doing that. There's a whole range of things that we would record in this book. The time you spend in study, the time you spend in personal prayer, the time you spend going to church, leading church, leading worship or fellowship, serving people in the community, any of those things. It could be visiting the sick, going to hospital to visit people, a whole range of things. And we'd hope that you'd actually get a balance between actually pouring God's love and the Spirit into you and between what you give out. If you're just giving out and you're not putting in, that you're going to have problems down the track. We know that people come unstuck, and we don't want people to just be taking everything in and never giving it out. So I'm just going to share the logbook now. It should come up on screen in a moment. And there we are. So here it is, Theology and Ministry Logbook. It's the same for all students this year. So the Certificate 3 students, and you'll find most of your books will have this green cover on them. The Certificate 4 will have the blue, and Diploma will have the red. But this is the same logbook for all 3 courses this year. And what we'd encourage you to do straight up is put your name and your community on it. Don't worry too much about block 1 start. When we drew this up, we were assuming people were still coming. And what you should see on nearly all of the books now for any course is the version number and the date the version was completed, and just a reminder that all Wontulp material is copyright. So let's just work through the book. There's a bit of useful information at the beginning, things about studying at Wontulp. Just to remind you that the college has been around for over 35 years now, and we aim to provide a foundation for leadership and work with Indigenous communities with a balance, as I was saying, between study and practice in biblical studies, theology, and personal community development and ministry education. So this is part of the participatory stuff. We expect you to do things. Now, the reason we have a logbook is to help you to keep disciplined in your study. So you're actually keeping track. So it's not, oh, I'm planning on doing it today, I'm planning to do it tomorrow, and you never actually get around to it. This is a way of actually keeping track of your study. And we hope for all of you that it'll become something that you do for the rest of your lives. Whatever form of study, whatever form of learning works for you. The second reason we do it is it helps us as teachers, and it's particularly important when we're not meeting face-to-face, and particularly important when you're working on books that are designed to be done at a self-paced, the at-home books. To see if you're spending enough time on it, and to let us know as your teachers whether you're actually spending the right amount of time on each unit. If we suddenly discover that people are spending weeks and weeks trying to solve one book that's really difficult, that's an immediate indicator that we've actually made the unit too difficult, in which case we need to change it. But if people are just zipping through it, then maybe it's not challenging enough. It is a condition of graduation that you hand in a completed logbook. We need to have those hours. And part of the reason for that is some of the college funding depends upon you actually doing that work. Now, we know our experience has been that anybody who graduates does heaps of work in their community. We don't tend to have lazy students. Everybody's busy. And I'm just amazed at the number of hours that people put in. I'm just stunned at times, but we know that that's just how life is in communities for most Indigenous people. It's pretty full on. So we need you to put the hours in. We normally tell our regulator and the government that we expect people to do 600 hours, but our experience has been that people that graduate usually do, over the space of a year, much more than that. So, you know, somewhere between 16 and 30 hours a week is what we're looking at. And as we go through, you'll find that's actually fairly easy to rack up that time. So a couple of things you might come back to occasionally about how to get the most out of study. It's useful to do up a timetable, so plan when you're going to do your study, particularly important when you're at home. You need to find time that you can actually concentrate without distractions. Now, that may be locking yourself in your bedroom, finding a place to study outside somewhere. One of the most extreme ones we had, one of our students who came from Central Australia, life in his community was just maddening, really high tension time. So what he did in order to finish at least one of his books was he actually went out into the desert and sat down and got some really good answers to many of the questions. The book was interesting because it was actually coated in red dust, but that didn't worry us. It was good that he learnt. It's important to plan your day. So have a list of things you have to do, some things you want to do, and depending on what happens, because we know life happens. You're not always going to get everything done. For instance, when I'm doing this, I've just spent 2 hours trying to get the computer to work, which was crazy because it worked yesterday and I finally worked it out. So you need to actually allow for that. Get rid of distractions. So if you are studying, it may be a really good idea to silence your phone so that people aren't ringing in and disturbing you. We know that for many of you now, you will be using phones to look up resources. And in fact, some of the units, we will actually encourage you to tap into online resources. We won't stream them here for space and copyright reasons, but we do encourage you to do that. So organise your place of study, and it doesn't matter if you're sitting beside a spinifex bush, under a tree, or at home. Organise your books and papers so they can be easily found. Organising class materials, that's pretty important. I can't stress enough that it's good to actually get one book and work on it. Sure, if you get stuck, move on to something else, but don't be flicking between books. Don't go one book, another book, another book, another book. We see people do that and they never seem to finish anything. It's better to keep working at something. If you don't understand a question and you're finding the question difficult, or in some cases, the question's actually raising some deep emotions for you, move on to the next question, but then come back and have another go at it later on. That's really important. The other one that goes with that is know when you're at your best. So don't try and do this stuff when you're really tired, when you're really upset, and particularly if you're remembering things that are actually deeply emotional, you may need to give yourself space. The other important thing is to make sure you don't try and study for 15 hours straight. There are a few human beings around the world who can study for 12 or 15 hours straight. They are very rare. Most of us will need to have a go at it, go for half an hour, have a break, let your brain absorb stuff. And particularly when some of the material you're learning, you will need to chew over and think over. So allow yourself time to think and reflect. The other one is don't put it off. Plan to actually spend a bit of time. If it's only half an hour or an hour a day, or every couple of days, if you get into the routine, you'll get through. If you don't, it'll just pile up. And one of the things we're going to be doing with people is actually giving an indication when we think you should be able to get some of your books finished and get them back to us. Learn how to deal with disturbances because you will get them. It's a fairly important skill so that If you've actually organised your time to actually have some time to study and somebody gets in your way or demands something, you need to actually just say, look, I need to get this done. This is important. Be polite, but actually be quite firm. And definitely take care of yourself. So eat healthily, make sure you get enough sleep, make sure you get enough exercise. All of those things will help your brain work. It doesn't always seem that way, but believe me, it does. And if you're not well, then it's going to be really difficult to study. The other one is make sure you allow yourself time to enjoy yourself. Have a social life. If you can get together with friends, meet with friends. And if you get stuck, the college is only a phone call away. You can call friends, you can call your support people, you can call me. We will have somebody there who can actually help you. And sometimes it's just, you kick yourself. A lot of people kick themselves afterwards. They go, oh, should have seen that. But that's okay. Until somebody points it out for you, you can't always see it. That's okay. Just, don't stress. If you get stuck, holler for help. And if you are really genuinely having difficulties, call us. And don't wait forever. Call us quickly. And the other one that we would normally tell people is if you're unable to attend a study block, you need to let the college know as soon as possible. That allows us to cancel flights and room bookings. If you don't let us know and you miss the flight, tell us after you've missed the flight. You may well be liable for the cost of that flight. And if you change your mobile phone number or address, tell us as soon as possible. We know people tend to lose phones. It happens a lot. But if we don't have your phone number, we can't ring you. And we know for many of you, credit on your phone is an issue, but we do need to know what your contact details are. So when you're studying at home, think about what you think, whatever you're thinking about or reading, think about it prayerfully. Read the content, and you can check the assessment grid at the beginning of the book. Normally we tell you just get into it and don't read that later, but sometimes it's useful to have a look at. Read the Bible references, use your tools, so commentaries and whatever, Bible dictionaries, and concordances for background information. Read and reread the question. Make sure you're actually answering the question on the page. Make sure you haven't gone off track. The other one, which we'll no doubt talk about in a couple of the lesson videos and audio recordings, is to underline or highlight the main points in the text, not great pages of text, the main words. Then make dot points in your own notebook. And as you see, I'm finding mistakes as I'm reading. And use those dot points to actually construct paragraph answers, particularly for those of you in Cert 4 and Diploma. Call your support person for help. Call the college on this free call number. Call the Wontulp friend who can help you out with it. And then, we'll have some other information on some of that. So how much home study? That's some useful thing. Let's get on to the logbook section. This is the important bit. What we want to do, and you'll see it says self-care and then giving to others. So in any given week, and this will be just a typical week, I haven't put any dates in, we would expect you to be spending some personal time with God in prayer, spending some time in study, reading the Bible, looking at DVDs, looking at some of the clips on online, going to church and fellowship services, doing community service, community activities, Bible study prayer groups, preparing for any of those. If you're actually leading one of those groups, you do need to spend time preparing. And if you've done those, just put a tick. If you actually spent time giving to other people, helping others learn, which could be teaching Bible study, running a kids group, leading fellowship group, helping people in some practical ways. So that could be, bringing somebody a meal, taking communion to somebody who's housebound or sick, visiting hospital. So any of that sort of stuff, you can tick those. Church of Fellowship Services, Bible study. And the other notes that are really good to put in here is, in this case, was that this person has found one unit they're working on really hard that week. So you just make a note. If there's nothing there, not a problem. Now, we need to know how much time you've spent. Now, we don't need in great detail. So what we've done here is we've taken, here's a week's worth of the calendar. So there's before breakfast, early morning, late morning, the afternoon, arvo, early, late, evening, early, late. Now, if you are busy for some of the time, so it might be you pray and do devotions for about half an hour or so before breakfast, just put one line through that box. So this person's been quite consistent. They've prayed each day, each week. So one line, and then they've probably gone off and had breakfast. Sunday morning, they've spent the whole of the first part of the morning at church. So church and morning tea. So they put it there and they've gone to evening worship. And in doing so, because they've been busy for that whole section, you put 2 lines through it. Monday, they didn't do much. They just prayed in the morning. Tuesday, prayed in the morning, prepped for the Bible study and done the Bible study. On Wednesday, prayed in the morning. They've taken one of the aunties shopping. That's taken all morning. And then they've gone and visited some sick people in the afternoon and spent some time studying in the evening. And you go through and just do that for the whole day. At the end of the week, you count up the number of lines. So when you do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and as you keep going through, you find there are 27 lines. That's roughly how many hours you've spent. So easy peasy. Now, not every week's going to be like that. We know that. And we don't want you to stress when things go strange. So here's a non-typical week. Somebody's died in the community or in the family, which means sorry business is going to take up most of your time. So you spend time at church, you help organise it, and that's pretty much it. It doesn't matter, as we said down the bottom. It's okay, don't stress about study as you've been working very hard that week. And what that one might look like is, the person's managed to get their morning prayer time in Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They've gone to church. They haven't made church in the evening. The funeral is on Thursday in this case. So I spent time visiting family. It's taken most of the morning on Tuesday. And they're doing a lot of cooking and preparation for the funeral. And then they go to the funeral and there's a family gathering. So we get 22 lines there. That's okay. Don't stress about it. One of the things that I learned very early on in ministry, one of my supervisors said, life's lumpy. It doesn't all come together. Sometimes it gets very busy, sometimes it gets quiet. So you just need to work on that. So what we've given you is a series of, there's a page per week for you to fill in. This one starts from when our first block was due to start on the 22nd of March. And as you go through each of those pages, that should take you through to the end of the year. Now, we will be checking probably around June or July, because we will need to know your total count at that stage, because we need to do our reporting to our regulator sometime after the middle of the year. It's also a way of actually helping us to see whether you're actually on track with study or whether we need to help you do something else. So that's our logbook. I hope that you will find that interesting and useful. And if there are difficulties and if you're not sure about whether something counts, give us a call. My experience has been 9 times out of 10, it should count. Don't worry about family. This is not you deliberately practicing college stuff on family. The input you're learning should automatically come out in the work and the care you do for other people. So that's our logbook. Please listen to some of the other ones. Work through the information that goes with it. God bless you as you study.